Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I know it's a little bit cold, so we'll do it as we did yesterday. You will be nice to me when I say good morning. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. That's better. It's lovely to see you all. Welcome to day 2. This is the project's closeout session. It's all about maintaining the momentum and celebrating and sustaining incremental changes in the market. Today will see us joyfully celebrate the remarkable results achieved by Kim, and this day is specifically dedicated to honoring the sustained impact and incremental changes introduced by Kim in the market. It will also give you the opportunity to engage in lively discussions, share success stories, and revel in the achievements that have reshaped the financial landscape of Kenya. And if you were here yesterday, you will agree with me that there is a lot to celebrate. After the lunch hour, Palladium will host a networking happy hour for the partners and offer all of us the opportunity to make beneficial connections as we celebrate Kim's success over the years. My name is Terry Ann Tibet. I will be your MC today, and I'm extremely excited to be part of this. So very quickly, to kick us off, I would like to invite Waringa Kibe. Waringa is the Chief of Party, USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism. She brings decades of experience in finance and investment, SME development, and leadership of complex development programs. She has held senior management positions and worked across the world in countries including Burundi, Kenya, Liberia, Rwanda, and South Sudan. Let's put our hands together for Madame Waringa Kibe.
What a day again. Huh? Nice to have you back again. And today we are so honored. We have some of our partners that have joined us today. I see Kefek, I see Amcham, but I also see someone very important in USAID, and he is here. You get to know him more. But I see you, the people that have made this program such a success. And if you were with us yesterday was what they say, it was a bomb, isn't it? We learned, we have been in the program, but I was scribbling, I was still learning. And some of the things that really stood out for me was some of the things that came out. I was trying in the evening at night to say, what would I summarize Kim about? I think what Kim has done is show what is possible. If you listen to the BASPs that talked to us yesterday, they saw what was possible in terms of engaging an enterprise and seeing that enterprise speak with an investor and close financing, something that is always such a big thing. How do I get investor ready? I'm here hustling with such a great idea, and they just don't see how good my idea is. Why don't they put in the money? And yesterday we saw the possibility of really turning that around and having an investor come into a business. We saw the possibilities that were seen by the counties. You know, Sahale talked about she was appointed into the office with an investment act. What do you do next? No budget, no office, nothing. And Kim comes along and delivers to her an operational plan. And she runs with it. She has an office. She has staff seconded. And she has 250 million Kenya shillings into her budget. We saw the women talk about, I came. I was looking for 5 million. I didn't even think the bank can give me, so it's just a try and error. They link with a BASF, and the bank now comes and delivers 10 million to her enterprise within 1 week. I think Kim has shown the possibility. The possibility of what? Addressing the big gap in SME finance in Kenya, in the region. As we sit here and celebrate, we have begun to open possibilities for you as a financier, for you as BAS, for us who sit on this other side designing programs. We have seen you can design, you can conceptualize, design, and get execution, because execution is the issue, and get it done, show the possibility. I am so excited. I loved this program before I joined it. I'm a latecomer, coming right at the end to celebrate. But it has been an inspiring program while I have been at it. So I have said I was a latecomer. So I want to introduce the one who was here. All along, you know? All along he was here. And I want him to tell us about this journey that has been Kim, that has shown us possibilities. So I want to introduce Roger Bird. He has been the COP of Kenya Investment Mechanism and now moved on to be a strategic advisor. So he's around to continually advise on this area that he's so passionate about. So Roger Bird, you can start coming. He's a natural relationship builder and networker. Roger has substantial experience in emerging economies, developing sustainable market systems, and delivering impactful results on donor-funded projects in agriculture, trade, and investment, and SMEs that advance access to credit, economic growth, job creation, and financial legislative reforms. Roger began his career as a commercial banker and later joined the US FDIC, managing failed banks and protecting taxpayers' funds during the financial crisis of the late 1980s, 80s, and early 1990s. With 27 years working in international economic development in Asia, the Balkans, Central America, and in 6 African countries, he has been working with Kenyan enterprises since 2010. You see Bart a lot, but it's good to read. I'm deliberate about reading his profile so that you get to know him. He needs to tell you the story of those failed banks he was bringing back to life or closing. But I'm honored to introduce you and just congratulate you for the great work done in Kim. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Waringa. And you know, you are welcome, latecomer or not. It's a pleasure to have you, and particularly considering that some of the administrative chief of party roles I now no longer have to worry about. You know, today is a day of celebration, and I'm just excited to be able to do that today. It's not really so much of a closeout. It's not a sad day for us. I remember when I first arrived in Kenya for this particular project. I'd been in and out of Kenya since 2010, but I arrived on June 3rd to start this project. I remember that date because, Veronica, it was your birthday. That's how I remember the day I came. But today is really a celebration of achievements. And those achievements are not only in terms of some milestones and deliverables, sure, those are important. But the ones that are most important, I think, are the relationships and the friendships that have been developed across partnerships. There's new partnerships that have been developed. There's new businesses that have been developed. There's new government relationships that have been opened up and expanded. And as a result, we've been able to actually see lives changed and people's influence in terms of how they conduct their business in the future. So I'm just really excited to be here today to kind of have that capstone. You know, a lot of the partners yesterday were talking about how they need to keep the Kenyan investment mechanism going, and the USAID needs to extend this on. And you know, the reality is just this. It will continue on. It will evolve. What we've been able to accomplish with the Kenyan investment mechanism is to get the momentum started. But really, at the end of the day, it's the private sector who's going to carry it. And it's the private sector who is actually the one who is finding those market connections and making those business transactions happen, just with a little bit of incremental assistance by USAID. So I remember in the very beginning, arriving in country and I'd done my homework, I had studied the work plan, I'd looked at the scope of work, I understood the contract, I had my marching orders from Palladium, Washington. This is what we're going to go do. And the program was actually, by comparison of where we ended, quite simple. We had 3 mandates. The first was capital mobilization, and really that's Kim's signature. That's what we're really known for. But the capital mobilization was going to be within 17 counties of Kenya, and it was going to support dairy, horticulture, and livestock. Sounds simple enough. In addition to that, we were going to assist counties and national government with policies that would help further unlock capital. And then last, we were going to assist banks improve their utilization on credit guarantees. So all that sounds simple enough. So in November of that year, I arrived in June. In November, we went to the American Chamber of Commerce Summit. That was a big event, and that helped put Kenyan Investment Mechanism a little bit on the showcase, and we've got a lot of recognition. And that's when they launched Prosper Africa. So one of the first initiatives that came was in Kenya was what they called Prosper Counties, where there were 8 counties that were identified. And what we were asked to do was to facilitate the mission with helping those counties with some of their policy initiatives. Okay, no problem. We can adjust, we can do that, we'll make that work. But then within the next couple of months, all of a sudden, things really changed. Now we started with Prosper Africa Initiative, Power Africa Initiative. These are all funding sources to keep Kenyan Investment Mechanism. There was Women's Economic Empowerment. There was Health, WASH. We launched an initiative to support the Treasury on the Credit Guarantee Program that you heard about yesterday. And the list goes on. And so all of a sudden we went from this program of 17 counties. Oh yes, and they expanded us to East Africa. So all of a sudden we went from this program of 17 counties to this really robust program. And I'll tell you, the thing I'm most proud of is the Kenyan Investment Mechanism team for stepping up. I really enjoyed and have been very proud of how the team has been able to adapt and adjust to those particular initiatives. And in fact, that's, I think, one of the things that the Kenyan Investment Mechanism team is probably most known for, particularly within the mission, is our flexibility and our willingness to find ways to not only serve the USAID's mission's priorities, but to serve Kenya and the local markets. So everything's rolling along fine, and then guess what comes March 2020? Yes, COVID comes. So all of a sudden we're like, well, how do we operate and how do we mobilize capital, and everything is shutting down? And during our first year, what was interesting was I arrived in June, the first fiscal year end in September, 4 months later. At that time when I came in, unfortunately, we had not yet mobilized any capital, not 1 shilling. And we had a target of 23 million due by September. Well, I used to be a bass in the United States years ago, and so we mobilized a lot of people in a lot of areas, and we encouraged, and we supported, and we delivered 21 million of the 23 in the first year. I was quite happy to be able to get that much, but then the second year, we had a target of 50 million, and then COVID comes. So what we did was we moved everything immediately onto an online platform. Everything. The team met at least twice a week on platforms. We had regular check-ins with our partners. We moved our training over to with Lattice. Joe and his team did a fantastic job retooling those programs, and we just adapted. The whole world was adapting, so we didn't have a choice. But the good news about finance and investments is that a lot of what happens is in meetings. It's conversations. It's understanding business. And so as a result, we were quite fortunate to be able to keep our partners engaged, and particularly the financial institutions. And so that second year, instead of delivering 50 million, the team delivered 100. And then we're off to the races. Things worked really quite well. I think that where some of the areas that the Kim has really excelled in is not so much in terms of specifically what we did, but specifically how we helped support the private sector and our partners do what they can do best. And really, isn't that the role of government, is to, get out of the way and help open up the road for people to be able to do their business? And I think that that's what USAID has done a fantastic job within the original design of this program. It is to incrementally help people be able to advance their business. When you take a look at our incentive structure for advisory services, the reason why that incentive was put in place is because the market was not getting served. Agriculture was not getting served, and the business advisors were then to be able to encourage them to go into the agribusiness side of things. It was to give them an incentive, which they did. And once you do that, business happens. People want to do business. I remember Matt Hutcherson saying, it's not just what we do, but how we do it is what matters. And the way in which this Kenyan Investment Mechanism team has built relationships, have pushed the envelope in terms of helping make market connections and be a true facilitator, my deepest gratitude goes to all of our partners, the Kim team, the government. I'm just in awe of the way in which people have taken up the initiative. So thank you very much. Let's enjoy the day celebrating, and God bless you all.
Right. So I want to move on now to USAID and just appreciate the presence of USAID here. There's someone who's not here, but he said, I will record. You will have what I have to say on clip, even if I'm not around. So that's Matt Hutcherson, the immediate former Director, Office of Economic Growth and Integration, USAID, Kenya and East Africa. Matt Hutcherson is the immediate Director of the Office of Economic Growth and Integration at USAID, Kenya and East Africa. In this capacity, he managed 42 staff and a $115 million annual portfolio of bilateral and regional activities in agriculture, resilience, water, sanitation, and hygiene, trade, investments, and energy, and has been a big supporter and believed in the Kenya Investment Mechanism vision. So we have a clip, and I'd like us to watch it. We hear what.
If you just look at the results, it's pretty obvious. Chem has far exceeded its targets that we set out early on. And so, of course, we're very proud of that, the amount of capital that the Chem activity has been able to mobilize. The model of Chem, in other words, using local business advisory service providers as intermediaries with local financial institutions is an extraordinary model, especially in the context of localization. At the end of the day, localization is about building local capacity, building sustainability, having a viable exit strategy. And Kim's model from the beginning is thinking about the exit. How do we do we in perpetuity have activities like Kim on the ground, or do we at some point decide we're going to build out the financial ecosystem in a country like Kenya so that these types of initiatives can continue on their own? I'm really proud of the results that we've been able to deliver under the Prosper Africa initiative. Then that has translated very nicely into the strategic economic partnership that we have right now with Kenya's with the new administration. Companies like Victory Farms, Region Organics, Comasa, Kintegra, Sun Culture, I Procure. I could go on, but it's these partnerships, these strategic partnerships under the Prosper Africa initiative. I'm very proud of those, helping to drive investment in the U.S. nexus here in Kenya and the region. Looking at our Prosper Africa results today, supporting 230 million in capital mobilized, and so about 50% of that being equity, 50% of that being debt. Really proud of that. Of course, a number of those results focus on increasing food security in Kenya, and I think we've succeeded in really moving the needle in that space. We're very proud of KEPFIC. This is a local organization that's here. It's operating, has a very impressive pipeline, at least. Well, I appreciate many things about KEPFIC and the model, but one of the things in particular is that KEPFIC is focusing on things like infrastructure, things like energy. This is a space that historically has been heavily financed through government. The Kenyan investment mechanism has been extremely flexible and accommodating to changing priorities, to evolving priorities at the mission. I couldn't ask for, honestly, I couldn't ask for a more responsive and flexible activity. It's been great, and I think the results show what can happen when that partnership between USAID and the partner works so well. I read my Kim sites every week diligently, and I'm looking at the dashboard here, and I see the last time that I'll look at this, we've mobilized almost $621 million right in capital, and so I think my parting message is thank you to the Kenya Investment Mechanism, to the entire team for helping us mobilize this level of funding, which far exceeds our target. Thank you for being responsive to not just us at the mission, but to our important initiatives like Prosper Africa, like Feed the Future. And of course, our evolving strategic imperatives under new leadership here.
So I want to move on very quickly and introduce our guest, one of our guests today, Bat Ubamadu. He's become now a friend of the program. We were with him, is it last week at Cafe? We're together with Patricia, just the way they are. When people begin to follow you like this, we need to continue existing. Anyway, Batu Bamadu is the USAID Kenya East Africa Deputy Mission Director. Bat has over 25 years of global emerging project development finance and private sector experience. He has served in various key roles within USAID, including as Senior Resident Legal Officer for USAID Ethiopia and USAID Kenya and East Africa. His expertise extends to providing strategic, advisory, and financing systems for African firms and banks. That sounds like a BASP. He holds a law degree for the University of California and a master's degree in international public policy from the University of Chicago. His current mission involves propelling Kenya and East Africa towards prosperity and sustainable growth. We are so honored to have you, Bat. Keep coming.
Habari Asabui. Good morning to all. Thank you so much for that introduction, Moringa. I am a friend. I said that last week too, and I truly am a friend. If you keep inviting me back, I will keep coming, so be careful. This work is just incredible, and so I do want to first appreciate Patricia. Thank you so much for joining us again. It is really an honor and to have you here. I also want to thank Benson Committee for all that you do. Sometimes it's unseen, but it's really, really important. It goes without saying, Roger, not much more needs to be said. I think you just have to say the name Roger and everyone knows who you're talking about. But thank you for what you do. Moringa, Chief of Party, you may be new, but you've done extraordinary work also. So I really do want to thank you for what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning again. It is my pleasure to join you all today for this important closeout session for the USAID KIM activity. And again, Patricia, I'm so grateful that you are here. Your directorate has been such an important part of what KIM has accomplished and really what Kenya is accomplishing in the area of economic development. So thank you for what you and your team and the entire agency do. The United States government and Kenyan government are working together to foster private sector-led development, showcasing the collaborative efforts that have driven progress and transformation. You've heard a lot about this already. Our partnership with the government of Kenya, the private sector, and the Kenyan people are advancing economic prosperity for all and reinforcing the vision that every Kenyan should benefit from Kenya's development, grow their businesses, provide for their families, and contribute to the nation's future. We have noted achievements resulting from these collaborative efforts, including enabling nearly 30,000 small and medium-sized Kenyan agriculture businesses to access credit, supporting over 65,000 small and medium enterprises to access over 635 million in finance and investment, leading to jobs creation and improving livelihoods for Kenyans. We have committed to moving beyond transactional partnership models, technical silos, and donor-led approaches. We emphasize on the importance of self-reliance and the growth of capacity and commitment within indigenous actors, local organizations, and domestic institutions to achieve inclusive growth and long-term sustainable well-being outcomes. We have increased focus, personnel, and investments towards working with local actors and organizations. Prioritize private sector-led partnerships while maintaining a strong focus on youth and women as entry points for relevant interventions. I recognize the crucial role of private sector actors and institutions in Kenya's development landscape, emphasizing their contributions to investment facilitation, inclusive employment, broad-based economic growth, and quality services. We have supported significant small and medium-sized enterprises in Kenya's economic growth, adding approximately 40% to the country's GDP. USAID is committed to continue supporting SMEs by connecting them to financing and fostering their growth potential. There is no better example than this KIM activity. Access to finance for the private sector, particularly for small and medium enterprises, is always a challenge. I mentioned to Roger, Patricia, and others earlier today the work that I did many years ago in Nigeria, really trying to foster a lot of what you've been able to achieve here. It was not easy. At USAID, we are committed to collaborating with the Kenyan government and the private sector to encourage greater investment in Kenyan firms, expand banking services to underserved communities, and design financial products targeting underserved borrowers. We have not only assisted businesses to access financing from local sources, but also supported foreign direct investment that drive inclusive growth, job creation, and productivity enhancements. I express gratitude to all partners and stakeholders for their collaboration and assure you of our commitment at USAID to continue close cooperation in advancing Kenya's sustainable economic growth. I now, if I can, wish to introduce a very important person. If I could have Patricia, please come up here. Patricia Arua is the Deputy Director, Industrial Business, Environment, and Private Sector at the Development Directorate. And with that, Patricia, we welcome you and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. When you're in a place like where I am, you know, government has its bureaucracy, isn't it? It's nice to speak after Bart, because I see a bit of that formality in him. I was a little worried when I saw the extemporaneous speech from, is it Roger? And I was saying, are they expecting me to deliver that? I have to speak on behalf of the PS. So, Roger Bird, the KIM Senior Strategic Advisor, Matt Hutchison, Director of the Office of Economic Growth, who spoke to us via video link, Bart Ubamadu, Benson Committee, Investment Team Lead, our partners. I'm so happy for that spot that we just saw. Friends of USAID, Waringa, thank you. She fixed me from last week. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today is indeed a special day. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of my peers to celebrate the success of USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism over the last 5 years. This program has had some very impressive results. Back in 2018, when KIM set up shop, it was with the objective of mobilizing private investment and accelerating enterprise-driven development. Nelson Mandela once said, thank you, that it is better to lead from behind and put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory. And I think we have seen that here. You have put others in front, and now you're celebrating victory. Kim's results today prove that the program has more than delivered on its objective. That has been stated here over and over again. Indeed, mobilizing over $600 million in capital for hundreds of local SMEs is no small feat. It is particularly remarkable that when you consider this fact that the capital has come from private sector, some of whom have spoken to us over here, it is beautiful that Kenya's financial ecosystem is changing. We have an appreciation now of the major role the private sector plays in the country's socio-economic development and transformation and its economic self-reliance. The investment promotion function that Kenya has dates back to the early years of independence, when the government formulated various strategies and policies in an effort to boost investment, growth, and in the country. The Foreign Investment Protection Act was passed to provide basic investor protection in 1964. And that's the function we now do as the State Department for Investments Promotion. In 1982, the Investment Advisory and Promotion Center was set up to cater under the Ministry of Finance and later converted to the Investment Promotion Center in 1986 through the Investment Promotion Act, Cap 485. The mandate then was promoting private investments in Kenya, both local and foreign, for both local and foreign investors. Further, Kenya is engaged in bilateral, multilateral, and plurilateral investment agreements, basically to guarantee investors of the importance attached to investment in the country. My colleague, I don't know if he has arrived from the Kenya Investment Authority, was supposed to be here just to indicate the support that we are committed to giving as the national government for investors. We also want to thank the Kenya Investment Authority because they do support investors through their investor facilitation activities and aftercare services. From what I have observed, Kim's success has largely been built on collaboration. Collaboration with government, collaboration with the private sector, collaboration with financial services, collaboration with partners, and with the SMEs themselves. This explains why a program that is neither a fund nor a bank, like my brother here has handled, can mobilize that much capital for the working capital needs of SMEs across Kenya, and even our smallholder farmers. Similarly, the Kenya government, under the leadership of His Excellency the President, is diligent about delivering on some of its key mandates on a foundation of collaboration and partnership. The government has a vision of attracting and forging new investments with sustainable impact that creates jobs and boosts prosperity for all. Through enduring partnerships, a tried and tested model is the public-private partnership model, which has proven to be effective in aligning opportunities with fitting incentives, especially when it comes to mobilizing capital for win-win in limited fiscal space. I'm happy also to note that our trade relations as a government with the USA is growing in leaps and bounds. The USA is now the leading export destination for Kenya, and USAID is a major facilitator, providing technical assistance to many of the technical populace. I'm happy that our collaboration recently brought in Moderna, one of the renowned vaccine manufacturers that will soon be breaking ground in Kenya. And this will be the only facility of its kind in Africa. We are proud of this association. Ladies and gentlemen, to unlock the private sector's potential, the State Department for Investments Promotion continues to ensure that policy and institutional framework makes for business friendly environment. In the next 2 months, we have some bills that are going to be subjected to stakeholders for their inputs. These include draft amendment bills for the Export Processing Zones Act, and some of the partners here would probably want to engage in that space, the Special Economic Zones Act, the Investment Promotion Act, and business laws amendment. The objective of these amendments is to create a foundation that will further attract investments, accelerate economic growth, and growth in the private sector to create jobs and wealth for millions of Kenyans. We're saying in government that we are determined to make it easier to do business in Kenya and to retain our country's competitiveness as an investment destination. The case studies that have been presented at this event, and I have indeed spoken to some of the partners here, show that there's been a marked shift in the local financial ecosystem, and thanks to Kim for the last 5 years for that great work. There is increased lending, particularly in the agriculture sector. More and more SMEs are now paying for quality business advisory services, and the relationships between financial institutions and SMEs is growing. These resonate very well with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which you know has prioritized agricultural value chains. I urge us all, therefore, to maintain the momentum that the Kenya Investment Mechanism has set up. And in closing, I would like to take this opportunity to thank USAID and the team for its contributions to Kenya's economic development. It is clear that we are moving away from a relationship that is dominated by aid and towards one that embraces the power of economic growth and delivers mutual prosperity. Indeed, broad-based job-creating economic growth is the key to lifting people out of poverty and realizing economic independence. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as Tom Peters once said, celebrate what you want to see more of. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Madame Patricia. Let's give her another warm round of applause. We really appreciate that you've made time to be with us here this morning. Of course, government is central to all the activities that have been taking place with Kim over the past 5 years. And just yesterday, Madame Patricia, I think I should tell you, we had an incredibly interesting conversation from the counties. We had 3 representatives from the investment bodies within the counties. And it did show, it was for us a reawakening of the opportunities that are in the counties, and we want to thank the Kenyan government for the commitment to progress. So thank you so much, Madam Patricia. All right, I would like to welcome George to come up on stage to take us through the next phase. Let's give George a warm round of applause as he makes his way up here.
I want to speak away from this, given the number of people. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there has been some mentions of several successes for Kenya Investment Mechanism, and I come from the communications field. We write and produce videos better than we speak. Of course, except Terian. She's for the screens, unlike me. And so right now, before I can have a guest of us to have a conversation with about the successes that they have realized as a result of our partnership, I would like to introduce my media team to play a video that gives you an intro of the conversation we are about to have. So my media team, if
So at Region Organics, we promote climate-smart regenerative agricultural practices to smallholder farmers. And we do that by using the circular economy, whereby we collect waste from cities like Nairobi and its environs. We convert that into regenerative agricultural products like organic fertilizer, and then we sell that to smallholder farmers here in Kenya. Today, Region Organics operates the largest organic recycling facility in East and Central Africa. We process today more than 60,000 tons of waste per year, which works out roughly to about 150 to 200 tons of waste per day, which is quite significant, yeah? So about 10% of Nairobi. And we use that to produce two main products. So one is organic fertilizer that goes by the brand name Evergrow. Then we also produce insect-based protein called Kuza Pro from black soldier fly technology that we sell to animal feed manufacturers who use it to produce feeds for pigs, fish and chicken. Right now the yields in this part of the world are very, very low, purely because the organic matter in our soils is very low. So we have found that the farmers we've worked with who have embraced organic fertilizer have seen upwards of a 30% increase in yield. So that means that their income has gone up 30%, which can be the difference between a successful farmer and a farmer who's not successful. Yeah? So by solving a waste management problem upstream and using the circular economy approach to upcycle that waste and convert it into useful organic fertilizer, we are also helping the farmers to become more profitable, and by extension we're helping to solve the food insecurity problem that Kenya has.
I started using Evergrow 2022. The soil pH has been maintained. The crops have changed, they are evergreen. The soil fertility has increased. Water retention, that's why you can see they have not withered, they are not affected by drought now. Before I was using Evergrow, specifically on this shamba, I used to get around 10,000 kgs. But for last year, I had 30,000 kgs, so there was an increment of 20,000 kgs.
Nilianza kutumia hii mbolea ya Evergrow miaka kama 3 iliyopita, na hata kama hakuna mvua, mahindi zinafanya vizuri sana. Kama uonavyo zenye niko nazo hapa kwa shamba. Sababu ya kusema hii mbolea ni nzuri, inaweka maji. Inafanya mchanga kuweka maji. So sina shida na hii mbolea sababu inatoa chumvi kwa mchanga na madini zingine zile haziambatani na mchanga. So ukitumia Evergrow naona iko nzuri kushinda hizi zingine sababu kemikali inafanya mchanga kuwa mbaya. Na hii imenipatia mavuno chungu nzima. Zamani nilikuwa natoa kama gunia 5 kwa shamba. But nilipoanza kutumia Evergrow, nimekuwa na mavuno kama gunia 10, 18. Maisha inakuwa rahisi. Sababu uko na mavuno, uko na chakula. Hii mahindi inatoka unga na inatoka pia pesa.
Before we were using omena as part of our animal protein in our feed formula, and for a long time it was giving us an issue with the chicken were getting a lot of intestinal issues, getting sick all the time and high mortality. We started working with Region Organics, I think it's about 2 years now, and it's been good throughout. We get about 10 bags a week from Region Organics. That translates to about 600 kilos of black soldier fly larvae in a month. We now have very low mortality. The best thing about black soldier fly larvae, you know the quality is good. It's great because we know how it's produced. We've kind of seen how it's produced, and it's usually clean so that our chicken don't die and they don't get any intestinal issues. So high production also.
So at Regen Organics, we really value the role of partnerships in not just allowing us to scale, but in supporting our business. We've now recently launched our second facility in the country, in Kakamega County, which is located in Western Kenya. And this facility is looking to process about 36,000 tons of waste annually, which will continue to support the 10,000 farmers that we are currently working with. And so it's through our expansion in Kakamega is not possible without partnerships. So we worked very closely with USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism, specifically in fostering a great collaborative relationship between the Kakamega County and ourselves. So it's this public-private partnership that has allowed us to scale in Kakamega County and been very influential in ensuring that we actually launch and get this facility up and running. And it's only a matter of time as we continue to scale this solution across various counties in Kenya. Our overall goal is to bring regenerative agricultural products closer to communities who need it the most.
Our goal, again, in the next 5 years is to collect more than 1 million tons of waste per year. So for context, right now we're collecting 60,000, which already makes us the largest in Eastern Central Africa. Yeah? So we're saying growing more than 12 times in size compared to where we are today. So that means expanding our operations into other counties in Kenya. After we have covered Kenya, we also want to extend our operations to other parts of Africa. Yeah?
Clapping, I think that already tells me it was true that we speak better on videos. Just to give us some more context to this, I would like to invite co-founder of that company that you've just watched, David. Please join me on stage just to have a conversation with David. We've watched the video, and what we'd like to know is, because I know Regen is part of a bigger group of companies. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us more about Regen Organics as part of the Synergy Collaborative?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is David Auerbach. I'm one of the co-founders of Regen Organics, which is part of the Synergy Collaborative. So we've been here in Kenya for the last 11 years. And we're actually a group of independent companies that are all under one brand, though, of the Synergy Collaborative. So the first of these companies is called Fresh Life. And Fresh Life works to provide safe sanitation for residents living in informal settlements. They've built an incredible network of quality sanitation facilities that are now reaching about 250,000 people across Kenya, Eldoret, and are now beginning expansion elsewhere, including we're building our first toilets in Lusaka this week, actually, which is pretty cool. Fresh Life provides great sanitation services, and the thing that makes it so special as a model is that it offers daily waste collection services. So day in, day out, our teams from our logistics teams, which are generally young people from informal settlements, are coming and doing a professional waste collection. That level of service makes it a very unique, different model compared to what's been offered in the past. We then combine this with what you saw for Regen Organics. So we combine the sanitation waste with other organic waste. So currently, we collect from most of the markets in Nairobi and the surrounding counties, even Kiambu County, where we are today, and also as well as we collect waste from the airport. We collect waste from hotels. We collect waste from embassies. We collect waste all over. This is done under the brand of City Fresh. And as Michael said in the video, we're collecting somewhere between 150 to 200 tons a day. As we go to Kakamega, it's very exciting. You know, as we know, there's a lot of sugarcane is produced there, for example. So there is a lot of organic waste there. Plus, the city of Kakamega and the county of Kakamega has its own organic waste from the population too. Regen Organics, as you saw, does all of that. And then the last thing we do is that we have a company called Circular Impact. And what Circular Impact does is actually measures and then monetizes the environmental benefit of the work that's being done. So what that practically means is that we're getting carbon credits for the work that we're doing in Nairobi right now. By collecting and treating the waste, actually it offsets significant amounts of methane and carbon. And we're going to be the first company I think in all of Africa to get circular economy backed credits through Vera. We're not stopping there. We're trying to figure out ways to be able to expand this to make it useful for others. We appreciate that, like, you know, one that we've grown quite a bit, and still to access and become part of the carbon markets is difficult for SMEs. It's really difficult for farmers too. And so we're trying to figure out ways that we can actually make this more accessible for everybody too, and unlock that potential for the Kenyan economy.
Wow, thank you. I was expecting some claps from the audience, but clearly.
Well, the video is better than anything I'm saying, so there's nothing I can really help with.
Yeah, thank you. And just speaking about Regen Organics specifically, what is the vision? Where are we headed? What should you expect?
Yeah, I mean, the vision is to be, you know, Michael said in the video, 1 million tons of waste. Let's be more practical. I mean, we want to be in every city in emerging markets. You know, this is a very real challenge that 60 to 70% of the waste that is collected is organic. Currently, not much is done with it. In fact, it becomes harmful to the environment by being left out to rot, or if it does go to landfill, ends up significantly releasing methane gases and things like that. And so that's the vision, is like, how do we actually figure out, you know, how do we actually be in every city so that you can be promoting circular economy there, you can be promoting local food systems, right? So Regen has really thrived in this you know, very difficult time between COVID and the crisis in Ukraine, in that, you know, Kenya does not have that much fertilizer production locally. Us being able to do that is really valuable, to be able to increase to be able to create predictability for farmers and increase their yields and their incomes.
Thank you very much, and I can't wait to see this growth. I'm looking at visiting more and more of the factories. I've been to the Kenania one, very excited. I actually, every time I visit, I'm wowed, see if there is something new that has been added. Michael just mentioned about expansion to Kakamega, Kakamega County.
Yeah.
Wow, my mother tongue is still interfering with my English, or else it's the other way around, my English interfering with the mother tongue. So
I think that's the correct, yes.
Yes, yeah, English interfering with my mother tongue.
To the mother tongue, please.
Yeah. Yes. So would you speak more about this? I attended the groundbreaking. Can you just give us a brief of the journey that you went through, and what role USAID through Kim played? And I didn't hear in the video the mention of jobs, so maybe you can also touch a little bit about job creation for that.
We love jobs. Sure. Well, yeah. So first of all, so for those who haven't met, and I apologize, I wasn't here yesterday, but Elizabeth from Kakamega County is here, and so and she was instrumental in all of this happening. So thank you. Sure. So wait, is this being recorded? Which version do we want? No, I'm just kidding. So So I only say this. So Regen was looking at expansion into Western Kenya, and we were really excited by the potential, and we had a number of counties that were vying for our model to come. Of course, we solve so many, as discussed, we solve several problems, and we create jobs, and we create fertilizer and insect protein, and things that a lot of especially the rural county, agrarian, agriculture-focused counties focus on. And Elizabeth and her team really reached out to us very, very actively, and were very adamant about figuring out a way to be able to partner together. I'll be honest, as a private sector player, we've had a hard time working with government in the past. There are all sorts of stereotypes, but at the end of the day, like, we are a small company, and when there is a big government that you're dealing with, it is really hard to be able to put the time, effort, and resources in to be able to secure those partnerships. So two things that were central. One, Kakamega was a great listener. These are the things that we need, and going beyond the nodding into like, okay, let's put that to paper. And two, Kenya Investment Mechanism coming in and saying, okay, how can we help you all build this partnership? There are contracts, there are leases, there are approvals and things like that need to go through. And the Kenya Investment Mechanism was really central in being able to provide us with the support to be able to interact, or to get to a successful negotiation with Kakamega County. And the support that we got, I think, it was always very results driven, which was really, really, really helpful. And of course, like, as this partnership built, USAID and the U.S. Embassy here had heard a lot about this, of course, and Ambassador Whitman herself was really keen to see, to help build the case for investment into Kenya through this partnership, through what we were doing. And so that led to a great event on May 31st, the groundbreaking, which was just, it was an incredible event. There were 1,500 people there. Governor Barrasso was there. Governors from other counties were able to attend. Our partners at JICA were able to attend. And then, of course, the Kim team and the USAID team, too. And it was memorable for many reasons. There was the marching band of Kakamega County playing the U.S. national anthem, the Kenyan national anthem, the East African national anthem, and that was pretty amazing. Elizabeth also made a life-size cake of one of our factories, or organized for, I should say, which was incredible. And then, of course, there was just like so much energy through people coming together, and that has kicked off these next steps, which is us getting our project up and running over the next 18 months.
Wow, that's good. And how about the jobs?
I forgot about the jobs. Sorry, how could I? No, so each of these factories, creates directly, some are around 100 jobs in terms of what will be created, both directly in terms of people working from waste collection to running the factories to building out the sales team. But then, as Steph was saying, who's here today, we're going to be processing 36,000 tons of waste, which will, which brings, basically somewhere between 6,000 to 7,000 tons of fertilizer per year gets produced. And you spread that out. We can realistically spread that across, upwards of 10,000 farmers, right? And so that's where you start to see the impact of our products that are creating more jobs for the local economy.
Wow. And You started by saying establishing partnerships between private sector and governments isn't something that is very easy. But now you've already done that with one county.
Yeah.
Is there a plan in your expansion to replicate this model to other places?
Yeah, rinse, repeat. Very simply. I mean, I think there's a lot of counties that I don't think Kakamega would say, but I can say, are looking at Kakamega enviously, of like, oh, how did that happen? And now we have a template in place, right? Like that certainty for myself, for Steph on our team, to like, okay, we know how to do it, and we know that counties will agree to this too. Makes it a more. We'll make it a more frictionless experience, and we'll also make it as like, this is reasonable. Do you want, because previously it's like, oh, no one's ever built an organic fertilizer factory. Like, there's both sides. Both sides are like, is this going to work? So basically being able to have those conversations, not conversations. Sorry, those set of documents and expectations set are making things a lot more straightforward for us as we go forth.
Wow, thank you so much. Any parting shots, anything that you want to say? Those are actually the questions I had for you.
Okay, great. Thank you, George. So first of all, I'm here all morning, so I'm happy to talk to anyone here about all of this and would love to share. We feel really blessed, I have to say. There are a lot of programs that, talk about the services that they're going to be able to provide to strengthen the business environment, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And then nothing happens. We get 1 hour of consulting. Someone's like fairly general talking points that they've shared many times. We have even received documents at points that mentions other companies instead of us as what we should do as like a next step, for example. And the customization of the service and the support that we got was really, really valuable. And then the other part is that this, our work ties into like a much larger agenda, right? Like for Kenya in terms of jobs, job creation, stimulating trade and investment, improving those, and I think Kim's done a really good job of amplifying that message and connecting the dots and recognizing that those dots also don't get connected by themselves. It does take a lot of time and energy and resources, and I'm really appreciative of that. So thank you, especially to Roger, Waringa, and Benson and the team, and you, George, of course. So how could I forget? So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Because of mentioning my name, then I will end it there on a high note. Thank you so much, and back to you, Terian.
Thank you so much. George, let's appreciate them one more time. I think that was an incredible conversation. David, thank you so much for sharing your story, and congratulations once again to Kakamega County for that. All right, I'm told it's about 14, 15 degrees today. And for those of us who are Kenyans, it's the middle of winter. So it's tea time. I'd like us to take a very quick break, about 20, 25 minutes. Grab some tea, make a connection, speak with somebody you haven't met before, and we'll converge again here in about 25 minutes. So enjoy your tea and see you shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your tea break. I hope you made some meaningful connections and had some great conversations. I know some of you are feeling like, why is she calling us back now, just when the sun came out? But you'll thank me later because the sun has actually disappeared. And I'll tell you why. So I'm Kalenjin, and in Kalenjin, the name Chebet means born during the day when the sun is shining. So typically, child of the sun, so we have a special relationship. Don't worry, over lunch I'm gonna just make sure you get sun again. So we are now getting into the final session of our closeout event, and we will start this particular one by watching a video. We've had so much about Kim's impact and results, and for now, we will play a short video that will just run us through the numbers.
USAID's Kenya investment mechanism has been connecting business opportunities with financing. We created a network of 42 business advisory service providers who we incentivize to help enterprises access financing. We also worked with 22 local financial institutions, providing incentives to serve SMEs. We also supported them with new financing products that better fit the cash collection cycles of businesses. Additionally, we deepened their understanding of the importance of value chain financing. By mid-July 2023, USAID's Kenya investment mechanism had mobilized over $636 million in finance and investment for enterprises, way above the target of $520 million. This capital supported close to 9 million smallholders and 450 SMEs. Our pool of business advisory service providers mobilized over $293 million, while financial institutions mobilized over $313 million. Through institutional investors working under the Kenya Pension Funds Investment Consortium, or KEPFIC, we mobilized close to $30 million. Kenya investment mechanism supported key sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, energy, health, as well as water, sanitation, and hygiene, that is WASH. We were intentional about scaling women and youth entrepreneurs' access to financing. Of the total capital mobilized, $58.6 million went to women business owners, while $14.4 million supported youth entrepreneurs. Kenya investment mechanism had an intentional focus on companies that align with Prosper Africa Initiative's goals, such as promoting two-way trade and investment between Africa and the US, supporting economic growth, and advancing sustainable development. Our support to Prosper Africa resulted in $249.5 million in new funding for 32 US Nexus companies across Kenya and East Africa. The new capital injection into these US Nexus companies has contributed to job creation, increased trade, and economic growth in the region. We are grateful to our partners for working with us in this journey of connecting business opportunities with financing.
And now we will get into our first keynote presentation. I'd like to welcome Ngatia Kirungie, who's head of the KEPFIC Secretariat, and he will be taking us through the Kenya Pension Investment Consortium, an organization Kim supported to establish. I would like to introduce him first before he makes his way up on stage. Ngatia is a founder and managing director of Spearhead Africa, a Nairobi-based infrastructure and alternative investment advisory business, and the head of the Kenya Pension Fund Investment Consortium, that's KEPFIC, the secretariat. He has extensive experience from large financial institutions in New York, London, and Nairobi. Prior to founding Spearhead Africa, Ngatia was an executive director at Goldman Sachs in London, where he led the firm's Africa fixed income sales and credit coverage and was responsible for leading financing and public market investment transactions valued at over $5 billion. Ngatia holds an MBA from Vanderbilt University, a BSc in International Business Administration from USIU Africa, oh, that's my alumni, and 2019 Obama Foundation Africa Leader. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to our hosts, the Kenya Investment Mechanism, for having us here today. As you have heard, KEPFIC is one of the initiatives that Kim has supported from our very inception. And we wouldn't be where we are today without the support of Roger and the team at Kim. Before I start off on my presentation, I think it's important for us to have a little bit of background as to what we are looking to achieve, what we have done so far, and what was the initial idea behind KEPFIC. And we have a video that we launched, that we used at our launch. This was in 2020, if you can recall. We spent many hours with George working on this with multiple cuts, multiple different iterations. And, but I think it summarizes quite well what we have been doing, and it will give you a good sense of what I'll speak to in our presentation. So I think the presentation is loaded up.
In the search for optimal returns, Kenyan pension funds, like those the world over, continue to scout for profitable and impactful investment opportunities. While most pension funds have traditionally invested in government securities and blue-chip stocks, investments in infrastructure and other alternative asset classes present an innovative, profitable, and long-term sustainable opportunity. The Kenya Pension Funds Investment Consortium, KEPFIC, is a consortium of Kenyan retirement benefit funds that have come together to make long-term infrastructure and alternative asset investments in the region. Infrastructure investments offer attractive returns, portfolio diversification benefits, and match long-term assets to long-term liabilities. And over the next 5 years, KEPFIC aims to mobilize $250 million from Kenyan pension funds and offshore co-investors for investment in impactful infrastructure assets. To do this, KEPFIC aims to identify suitable infrastructure opportunities, pool investment capital from local pension funds and co-investors, and build the technical and investment capacity of our member funds to enable them to make informed infrastructure investment decisions.
Infrastructure, by its very nature, is a very complex investment class. It requires costly due diligence and research, and the amounts required for the ticket sizes are beyond the capacities and regulatory limits for individual pension funds. And indeed, when you look at the pension fund industry in Kenya, we have 1,300 pension funds, and most of these are too small. And even the larger ones would struggle to invest in infrastructure on their own.
Kenya faces a significant infrastructure financing deficit estimated at $2.1 billion annually, a deficit that cannot be met by public resources alone. While historically infrastructure has been the domain of national and county governments, there is a significant opportunity for private sector participation as more private capital seeks longer-term steady returns, while governments are faced with much-needed competing priorities such as healthcare, food security, and education. Infrastructure presents an attractive yet underutilized investment opportunity for pension funds, and the involvement of private institutions will not only contribute to Kenya's economic growth and transformation as a whole, but also to better project governance structures by adopting global best practices. Thanks to a recent provision in the Retirement Benefits Authority investment guidelines, Kenyan pension funds can now invest up to 10% of their assets into infrastructure, effectively unlocking over $1 billion into the asset class.
We have recently amended our investment guidelines to allow schemes to invest a portion of their assets in infrastructure. We are therefore very supportive of KEPFIC's mission to bring together different pension schemes and other stakeholders which are keen on investing in this area of infrastructure, and is also bringing together other stakeholders to develop the infrastructure investment agenda.
KEPFIC was recognized as the Pension Fund Infrastructure Initiative of the Year at the 2019 Africa Investor Awards held in Cape Town, South Africa, further validating its mission and shining a brighter light on the East Africa infrastructure investment opportunity globally. The consortium has also received technical support from USAID and the World Bank to help local member funds navigate the infrastructure investment terrain, and by working with the mobilizing institutional investors to develop Africa's infrastructure initiative MIDA, KEPFIC has further leveraged its mission and established a partnership with US-based pension funds with total assets under management in excess of $1 trillion to explore infrastructure co-investment opportunities in the region.
KEPFIC presents an innovative approach to investments that will catalyze critically needed sources of private sector capital for infrastructure development. This comes at a time when national and county governments are facing growing budget deficits and competing priorities in healthcare, affordable housing, education, and food security. USAID's Kenyan Investment Mechanism is pleased to partner with Kenya Pension Fund Investment Consortium to support this expanded source of new capital.
MIDA Advisors has been supporting KEPFIC in the creation of a local consortium of pension funds to invest in infrastructure. We're working under the umbrella of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Our goal is to support a strong partnership between American pension funds and Kenyan pension funds. And American pension funds need a critical partner in the region, like-minded investors that are working for the benefit of its retirees and that are looking to undertake economically important projects in infrastructure, in housing, supporting job creation and economic development in the region.
By joining KEPFIC, pension funds will participate in infrastructure investments and enjoy several benefits such as economies of scale in the infrastructure investment selection, structuring and due diligence processes, capacity building through live deal analysis and project site tours, regular investment workshops with experts in infrastructure investment, and networking sessions with like-minded local and foreign pension funds, co-investments with global pension funds, technical support from implementation partners in the investment selection and execution process, and finally, advocacy efforts by representing its members' interests in regular engagements with regulators and external stakeholders and contributing to supportive policy measures.
Investing in infrastructure for us is an interesting asset class because it provides an opportunity for us to make a difference in the development of our country as well as other regions. What we benefit by working together as KEPFIC is access to knowledge, access to risk management, and access to partnership with other like-minded investment vehicles.
KEPFIC, mobilizing institutional capital for impactful infrastructure investments.
So that was the promise that we made in 2020 when we were being launched. And I must say, it's been a while since I've watched that video. And it's quite impressive, eh? Yeah. And it also covers like 50% of my presentation. So, so it means I won't be up here for too long. But we can have my presentation up. The focus that we'll now spend really the next couple of minutes on is really to highlight how Kim has helped us along this journey. You've seen already what they did in terms of putting together that video for our launch, but now I want to show specifically how all those promises have been met and we continue to achieve together with, through their support. Firstly, the clicker. Okay, so first of all, just a little bit of background. When we talk about alternative assets, the first question that we always have to clarify, always have to answer is just what are they? Now, these are essentially investments in non-traditional areas. So not the stocks and bonds that we're all quite familiar with. We're looking at areas such as infrastructure, as you have seen, private equity, private debt, venture capital, and the likes. So these are areas of investment that you'd find that our pension schemes have traditionally not been participating in. And why are these investment opportunities attractive for the pension schemes? For these reasons that you can see in front of you. First, they have competitive returns. If you notice, you'll see there's been a lot of foreign participation in Kenya's infrastructure over the last 10, 15 years. And that's not just from the generosity of foreign investors. The investment returns in infrastructure in our country are quite lucrative. And what we saw as, we saw this as an opportunity for KEPFIC and for its pension schemes to actually start to take advantage of these opportunities to get better returns for our members, while also ticking the box of economic development, which is obviously much required. Then there's diversification, and I'll talk about diversification quite a bit. We looked at the latest statistics the other day, and 92% of pension scheme assets are in stocks and bonds. And when you think about stocks, they're just a handful of names. You know them all. Safaricom, KCB, Equity Bank, a few others. What that means is that should anything happen to those three companies, for example, if the share price goes down, what that means, what that results in is really poor performance for the pension industry as a whole. And that's not theoretical. The effect of that is not just theoretical. What happens as a result is the pensioners who are expecting a certain amount of money every month from after working 30 years very diligently, now receive less. And so as pension schemes, given the fact that we are mandated to be good stewards of pension money, seeking diversification is very, very critical. And then we look at the fact that these investments are often long-term in nature, but that could scare other investors away, but not us, because we as pension schemes have a long-term horizon. So we can easily match an investment of 20 years, for example, against our own liabilities, the pension payments that will be required in 20 years. So we're a natural partner, we're a natural investor in some of these opportunities. And lastly is inflation. If you're thinking about investing long-term, one of your biggest risks is that the returns that you think are good today will be less tomorrow and in the future because of inflation. But when you look at infrastructure opportunities, the returns are often linked to inflation. So if inflation goes up, so do our returns, and net-net, we remain in the same position. So these are four big boxes that were ticked for us to start looking very seriously at alternatives. Now, I mentioned diversification. This is important because you can see that the size of our industry, or at least the pension scheme industry right now, is about 1.6 trillion shillings. And that's expected to double in the next 5 years. But I've just said that we have a handful, we only have very limited investment options. So where are we going to put the extra 1.6 trillion that's going to come in the next 5 years? We certainly cannot put it, we certainly can't put it all into government bonds, as you can see here. Government bonds are about 76%. We certainly can't put it all into Safaricom and these equities, which contribute 16%. Property, we're looking at property as KEPFIC because it is one of the alternative assets. We are seeing that it represents about 6%. And then there's offshore, which is 2%. You don't see anything else beyond that. You don't see infrastructure, you don't see private equity. And when you compare our portfolios to global pension schemes, you can see how far we have to go. Now, if that is all true, and it is, what is holding us back? What were we trying to solve? We know the outcome. We know we want pension schemes to invest in these infrastructure opportunities, the alternative assets. And this is now where Kim came in. Kim helped us identify and helped us address these challenges. And these challenges, I think, can all be summarized into investor preparation. Now, millions, if not tens of millions of dollars are spent every year on project preparation. And these are the project feasibility studies that you find the project promoters put together to ensure that the projects are viable. And that is certainly very, very important. But if you have a project that has, if all the focus is being put on project preparation, and the projects are ready, but when you say they're ready, but they're not investor ready, or at least the investors themselves are not at the point where they can invest in these projects, then it's for nothing. Yeah, you end up having stacks upon stacks of feasibility studies that sit and gather dust, and the outcome of those feasibility studies in the long run was to mobilize capital. But if the investors are not ready for that, then you will never reach your goal. So investor preparation really involved us addressing these 4 challenges. So the first challenge that we looked at, or the first challenge that we kept hearing about, as to why pension schemes weren't investing in infrastructure opportunities specifically, is that they had limited awareness of those opportunities in the first place. And that's not a surprise. Very rarely would you find someone who is constructing a road project or a hospital project going to knock on the doors of the local pension schemes. Pension schemes were just not seen as a viable source of financing. These project promoters would go and knock on the doors of the banks and the DFIs and leave us alone, which worked for some time, and I'm sure some transactions did close that way, but it really did not maximize what we could do together with the project sponsors. And so what would happen is that these pension schemes would only see these opportunities once they have been signed, and in the newspaper you see the photo and you see that DFI X has invested in project Y. But even if we were aware of these opportunities, we had limited investment expertise. It's one thing to invest in a government bond where the cash flows are very simple, you understand that. It's one thing to invest in Safaricom, where you top up your mobile units every day. But it's another to invest in a road project. It's another thing to invest in a power plant. And so without that investment expertise, what you'd find is that these projects would come to the pension schemes, and you look at them, you can't tell heads from tails, what is important, what isn't. The third point was these opportunities are just really large. You heard on the video that we have 1,300 pension schemes, so we're highly fragmented. That 1.6 trillion, divide that by 1,300 pension schemes, and you can see that there are very few large pension schemes, but there are very many small ones. But these small pension schemes, just because you're small, doesn't mean that you don't face the same challenges as the rest, as the larger ones. You need to have competitive returns, you need diversification. But given the size of the opportunities, it was very difficult for a smaller pension scheme to invest in such a large project, or such large opportunities. So we had to address that. How can we pool the investment capital of the pension schemes such that they can together invest into these opportunities? And the last point was regulatory uncertainty. This was critical because at the end of the day, no one wants to fall foul of the regulator. The regulator is there to ensure that the pension schemes stick to their mandate, no funny business, and that the pension contributors are the ultimate beneficiaries of a prudent investment policy. So, like I mentioned, this is where Kim came in, and I want to take you through the journey of KEPFIC and Kim. The rest of my presentation will really just be explaining this slide in different ways. So, KEPFIC 2018, the idea of 5 like-minded pension schemes that sat together and said, our returns are terrible, we need to do more. Why don't we start looking at more than just stocks and bonds? But there was no way for them to do that until Kim came to the picture. And so Kim's support came in around 2019. And the first thing Kim did is they hired my firm, Spearhead Africa, to be the full-time external secretariat of the initiative. And so this would allow an independent party to really bring to life the idea that what was once just a good idea. Now, in 2020, we had a number of significant milestones. So between 2019 and 2020, we were preparing for a number of things. The first is that regulatory uncertainty piece that I mentioned. So in 2020, we worked with the National Treasury and were able to get infrastructure introduced as a distinct asset class for pension schemes to invest in. And so what this did, it allowed the pension schemes to have some certainty, to have some comfort that the regulator would be comfortable with them investing into that asset class. And as you saw in the video, the CEO of the Retirement Benefits Authority was a very big champion of ours, and the current CEO remains the same. And then once we had done that, we were in a position to actually make a splash and to launch. So this was October 2020. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about it shortly. We had our launch in 2021. By that point, we were able to grow our membership from the 5 that were initially there to 25 with assets over $5 billion. 2022, working with Kim, we realized there was a gap. We hadn't yet finished our work. Yeah, we had some areas that could have been improved in our operations. Firstly, our corporate governance and our sustainability. Kim supported us coming to develop a corporate governance framework as well as a sustainability strategy to prepare us to walk on our own feet. Yeah? We had some investment success in 2022, mobilizing over $100 million at the time. And Kim also supported us to upskill the Secretariat on matters such as environmental, social, and governance investing, so we can be at the forefront of this trend. And in 2023, when you combine all those things, we were confident enough to go to the market with a call for investment proposals, and we developed a pipeline of over $5 billion. Next slide. So let's start with 2020. You can see that the launch, we had it at Movenpick Hotel. We had some very high-level speakers at the time. The keynote speaker was the US ambassador, as well as the PS National Treasury. This tells you the level of support that KEPFIC had, especially if you think about the KEPFIC from the perspective of national government, who are facing competing priorities. So we all hear about how government is fully stretched right now, and they are pulling back from some of the previous areas that they would fund. But we see that as an opportunity for us. And so did the government at the time, and so does the government today. As you heard from Patricia, she was also a keynote speaker at our conference last week, so thank you again, Patricia. And so we got started with a bang. I told you about the regulations that were amended to introduce infrastructure down there. You can see 10% can go into infrastructure and affordable housing. And then next slide. And then I mentioned that we grew as a result of that. Now, we had something credible to go to member pensions, to go to the market, to pension schemes, and tell them, come join us on this journey. This is just a snapshot. This by no means is the entire list of KEPFIC members. But what I want to highlight here is the composition, the diversity. It is both public and private sector pension schemes, both large and small. You can see some of the largest ones there. You can see, I think there's NSSF down there at the bottom. But you also have much smaller schemes present with us as well. Many people think that KEPFIC was set up just for public pension schemes. Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, like I mentioned, a pension scheme is a pension scheme, regardless of whether the promoter or the sponsor is from the public sector or not. They have responsibilities, the same responsibilities across the board. So that was extremely critical that we have a diverse membership base. I mentioned corporate governance. So we've launched. The regulations are in place. We have membership. Yeah, we have started to look at opportunities. But when it comes to investing, one of the first things you look at is, who am I partnering with? If you don't trust the person you're partnering with, you certainly will never invest. So one very important milestone, and I would say, it was extremely critical for our current and ongoing success, was beefing up our corporate governance structure. And where we came from, remember, KEPFIC was generated as a good idea. Yeah, but now we had to formalize ourselves as a viable and trustworthy initiative if we were to really raise any money. So through Kim, they helped us improve our corporate governance and helped us to stand on our own 2 feet, as you can see. On the corporate governance side, the key areas that we focused on were the responsibilities of the board, the appointment and the composition of the same board, a conflict of interest policy to make sure that there shouldn't be any conflict of interest, transparency, accountability, and disclosures. Remember, we're dealing with public money, it's important, and then importantly, corporate citizenship. And the results of that were, as of beginning of this year, we had our latest AGM where we had a fully elected board of directors for the first time, where we had KEPFIC members actually saying, these are our representatives, not these are the people who were there when we came. So that allowed now KEPFIC to truly be owned by the pension scheme community, not by the secretariat, not by Kim, not by the founders, but by the current members. It also increased the confidence of our stakeholders, the Fund Management Association, the trustees themselves, the administrators, and the likes. Now they knew that this is not a clique of individuals that have come to do something interesting, but now they could actually see through to our disclosures, our corporate governance, and the likes. Now, we always knew that Kim would not be with us forever. And we knew at that point we had to be self-sustainable. And so a big focus was to answer the question, what happens when Kim leaves? How would we be able to keep the lights on? You can put it that way. And so again, together with their support, we managed to develop our sustainability strategy, which is focused around mobilizing revenue from these, I would say, 4 key areas. So when we receive projects, we are paid to review them. Yeah, a small fee. That's the first one, so project review fees. But the larger revenue is really from the placement. I mentioned that we mobilize over $100 million. Now, in our market, you have placement agents, and even the BASPs themselves act like placement agents. When they mobilize funding, they get a small percentage, maybe it's 0.5% or 1% of the money that I have raised. And so that's the same model that KEPFIC has adopted. So you can think of us as a BASP as well in terms of our functionality. Then we have, the more traditional sources of revenue, which are the membership fees. So every year, our members pay something between 50,000 shillings to 150,000, depending on the size of the scheme. And finally, you have the usual trainings and capacity building sessions and conferences that, that we charge for attendance. Now, the results of that are that now that the results of having the sustainability strategy is that we were able now to, last year, to go to the market with a call for investment proposals. The more proposals we look at, the more likely the schemes will find a few that they were interested in investing in. Once they invest, we are essentially remunerated for that, and the sustainability cycle begins. Once we have some funding, we are then now able to help the schemes with their assessment. We're actually able to pay for that from our own pockets, and thus not relying as much or any more on the generosity of our donor partners, including Kim. So that's essentially our investment structure, that's our strategy. So we bring the investment opportunities to the table. You can see the green box over there. CAPFIC provides the technical and investment support to the pension schemes, to review them, to essentially learn more about the particular sectors that they're in. I mentioned that these sectors are new to them, so helping them beef up their expertise. We work with their fund managers, and their fund managers are their trusted service providers who have to provide their no-go recommendation, essentially. And then we work with co-investors, including pension schemes from abroad, but also local co-investors like insurance companies and the likes. And all this technical and investment support has been provided by our partners, USAID and the World Bank. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of, I would say, the three transactions that we call the proof of concept. So you can see we've invested in student accommodation through the Aecon REIT, we're all aware of. We've also invested in affordable housing refinancing to the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. They had a bond last year. And we invested in a road project all the way in northern Kenya. Now, the total amount that was being sought by these project sponsors was $84 million. But through working with CAPFIC, we were actually able to mobilize more than they required. So it's about 134% of what was being sought. But the most important thing is not the number. Yeah, maybe the number is important for the project sponsor, but for us, the most important thing is the number of pension schemes that participated. 88 of them. Yeah, that tells you the breadth and the acceptance of what we are trying to achieve. 88 pension schemes have had their portfolios diversified, even in a small part, by these three opportunities. And we continue to look at more, as I will come to next. I mentioned ESG. Now, ESG is something that is critical right now. ESG being the environmental, the social, and the governance side of investments. If we even let's start at the back, start at the G, the governance. We know there are so many situations where people have invested their hard-earned money, and because of governance challenges, even the best laid out plans don't work out. Yeah? And so understanding that element of investing is really important, was really important. We know about the environmental, climate change, and the fact that some of the investments we're making today will be affected by droughts, will be affected by changes in, like we've mentioned, in the environment. So that was also very important to understand. When we look at sustainability as well, we're very keen to ensure that because they're long-term investments, it must be able to stand the test of time. So you could have an investment opportunity that's giving you very good returns today, but if the thing is going to collapse in 10 years' time, you'll never get your money back, and at the end of the day, it would be for nothing. So Kim sponsored the Secretariat to all get ESG certified from the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. And when we looked at, and we'll come to this, when we came to inviting proposals from the public for investment, ESG was a very key criteria for our assessment. Next slide. So onto that call for investment proposal. As you can see, we were confident enough having the proof of concept that I mentioned. We had the corporate governance in place. We had the upskilling of the team in place as well. So we were able to confidently go out to the public and invite these proposals for pension scheme investment. And these were the results. So we got 57 proposals, which we reviewed. The aggregate value was about 770 billion shillings, about $5.5 billion. And what's really interesting is that they were from across the sectors. Yeah? You can see energy, property, healthcare, affordable housing, agriculture, telecommunications and ICT, transport, water and sanitation, and as well as other being mainly like financial services. It was interesting when we saw the video of Kim. We saw that initially they were looking at agriculture, they were looking at healthcare, for example. When KEPFIC first formed, we were looking only purely at traditional infrastructure. And it's really nice that through our own development we have met. Yeah? We have been able to expand our mandate to look beyond what we were initially thinking about and really be able to match what Kim was set up to look at. Yeah? So we are a reflection of Kim's work, not just in one sector, but really across all. These investment instruments, the investment proposals, the instruments that they were looking at was initially the largest ones were equity, but there was also debt, which is basically bonds, and a mixture of both. Next slide. So those 57 opportunities were assessed over the better part of this year, and the top projects, the top opportunities were shortlisted, and they were presented at our annual conference last week. And they were presented both, in the form of presentations on the day, but also together with Kim, we put together a very high quality investment deal book, which has been circulated to the pension schemes. It has the general details of each transaction and will allow them to then now assess each project and come back to us really to help us prioritize which ones they want to look at. So we thought we would have 100 attendees, 100 pension schemes and fund manager attendees. We were very off the mark. We had 215. Yeah. So, thank you. We knew that, or we hoped that there would be a good attendance. We had 130 who were there physically. Now these are 130 pension schemes. We had 85 who joined virtually over a two-day period. And those who are there will tell you that both days were fully packed. Yeah? So there was a lot of interest from day one into day two. We're very happy about that. And the shortlisted opportunities moved from the $5.5 that I showed you down to about $2.5 billion. Go to the next slide. So without going through the opportunities, I just want to highlight the size and the sector. So you have general infrastructure, which was really a catch-all. But if you look at the opportunities, you'll see there is telecommunications, in the form of Atlas Tower and Wilken Telecommunications. There is water and sanitation. There's general infrastructure through the funds, totaling about 105 billion shillings. If we look at energy, here there are both funds as well as direct projects to invest in, and all of them clean energy at that. So you have a geothermal plant, you have a microgrid, totaling about 334 billion shillings. Next slide. Property. On property, you have not just the typical residential and office that we all know about, but we also see opportunities in logistics. So one of the opportunities is Africa Logistic Properties that are putting up warehousing in the Athi River EPZ, which is a new opportunity for pension schemes. Yeah? We have Garden City, both retail and the commercial side. Affordable housing in the form of Mivida, Keza. And of course, you have student accommodation, totaling 22 billion. In healthcare, so now we're entering areas that previously we had no idea that you could actually make money by investing in certain sectors of the economy that previously we thought were only for government. So in healthcare, we have two funds that we're looking at, the Economic Empowerment Fund and Evercare Africa, totaling, 75 billion. Maybe I'll talk about Evercare. If you have been to Avenue Hospital, yeah, that's one of the companies that Evercare has invested in. So through investing through these funds, then these funds then now invest in the likes of Nairobi Women's Hospital, Avenue, and actually are able to increase the healthcare provision in our country. Next slide. Then we have MSME-focused opportunities. Now, this has always been a challenge because we keep hearing and we know that MSMEs are the bedrock of our economy. They hire employ 9 out of 10 employees, or 9 out of 10 workers, or 9 out of 10 of our population. And they're the growth area, of course. But they're also, it's also a very wide area of, they're in different sectors. So how can pension schemes, or how could pension schemes actually take advantage and start investing in this area? We do this through, once again, through the funds. You can see there's financial inclusion, that is an important focus. And then you have the likes of Blue Peak Capital and Zoscales that look at general SMEs. And when it comes to Seedstar Africa Ventures, this is a venture capital firm that is now looking at investing in more like startup type opportunities, totaling about 71 billion shillings. And lastly, and very importantly, agriculture. We've heard over the last 2 days Kim's work in the agriculture space, and we are looking to participate in that as well through investing into agriculture-focused funds. An example here is Vital Capital, looking for about 37 billion. So with that, I want to just take the last couple of minutes to really thank the Kenya Investment Mechanism team. This photo was taken last week, and it doesn't capture, first of all, it was a big moment for us. The deal book had been launched. There was a lot of excitement in the air. But this doesn't capture the entire team that has been supportive of us over the last 4 or 5 years. I truly, I'm certain we would not be here without the support that Kim have given us. And this is not monetary support. Yeah, they could have given us money and left us on our own. But there was a lot of guidance they provided. There was a lot of insight that they helped us see. And there were a lot of obstacles that they helped us navigate through. I mentioned the corporate governance and the likes. I mentioned the engagement with even government policymakers to allow us to change the regulations. Things that seem small, but when you put them together, they really add up. So I want to thank the Kim team. I might have left someone, but let me start with Roger and Waringa, to Anne, to George, who I think George and I, we probably spoke every Friday at least for about 2 years when he was putting together his Kim sites. I think there was a time for 2 years, Kim sites had an article or a section on KEPFIC, yeah, every week. I want to thank Bernard for his support as well, to Jeff, to Veronica, and to the rest of the team within Kim and the Palladium group that supported us. And on the USAID side, obviously we would not be here without the support of Matt, with Corey, Benson, Alex, who were very, very influential in ensuring that KEPFIC got the support that we needed, that paths were cleared to make sure that we stuck to our mission. We didn't have to start thinking about unnecessary challenges to resolve. Yeah, we were able to escalate any challenges we had. We were able to get them to support in unlocking a lot of even opportunities for us. I mentioned that at our launch, we had the US ambassador who came to speak. Now that's no small matter, yeah, especially for an untested, new initiative. And that would not have been possible without the support of the team that I've just mentioned. And from that alone opened a lot of doors. It gave us a sense of, give us a lot of credibility. It gave the market a lot of confidence in us, and to this day, we continue to benefit from that. So once again, I just want to thank you so much to the Kim team. I want to thank you for hosting us today. I want to thank you for the last 4.5 years of your support. And we look forward to you seeing how KEPFIC continues to grow and continues to achieve the promises that we made all the way back in 2019. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ngatia. Let's give him another warm round of applause. I mean, that was a really, really incredible presentation. The consortium, of course, will unlock the potential of Kenya's pension industry while making a really big contribution to economic development. So thank you so much once again, Ngatia. All right, we are now coming towards the close of our closeout event, and I would like to welcome Lauren Rawlings. Lauren is the Country Director, Ethiopia for USAID Catalyzed Market Systems for Growth and Palladium's Senior Technical Advisor, Finance and Investment. Lauren provides technical and management leadership for a multi-year USAID-funded economic transformation activity in Ethiopia. The activity is designed to provide private enterprises the finance, advice, skills, and market linkages required to contribute to improved food security and WASH outcomes. Let's give Lauren a warm round of applause.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today for USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism celebration of 5 years of partnership-driven results. As Terry-Ann has said, I'm Lauren Rawlings, a senior technical advisor at Palladium. And over the last 3 years, I've had the privilege and the pleasure of working with the Kim team and many of our partners. Partly inspired by our work here, I recently took on the challenge of leading a USAID-funded private sector transformation project in Ethiopia. So now I'm just up the road instead of in DC. And my job in Ethiopia is much easier, not easy, but easier, because of what I've learned and observed here with the Kenya Investment Mechanism. The unifying theme of the last 2 days has been the power of partnerships. And it's been immensely gratifying to hear the Kim team, USAID, our financial institution partners, our BAS partners, and most importantly, the SMEs reflect on what we've accomplished together. But as we close out the project, it's most exciting to listen to the commitment to continued, enduring partnership. And that these collaborations are rooted in relationships between people as well as coordination across organizations. And those are both very important. So we started the event yesterday with a conversation between two people, between Roger from the Kim team and Benson at USAID. And it was clear that they'd built quite a personal rapport over the time working together. And it was the trust and the open communication that set the stage for the kinds of partnership results that Kim has been able to drive. You might also recall that one of the participants in the Women's Investment Readiness Program, Virginia, reflected on the fact that entrepreneurship can be lonely, and that the cohort approach we used enabled her to find right? A network of friends who understood the journey that she was on, as well as potential collaborators and a support network. Edna from Afroscope also mentioned the fact that during one of our networking events, right, that they came together, two BASPs were able to come together and put together a deal for one of our SMEs, right? So these personal relationships really are important as the foundation or so the center of partnerships. But more institutionally, I know many of us were pleased to hear that the BASPs and the banks are committed to continuing to work together. And the collaboration between these business advisors and financial institutions is helping to bridge the gap between the supply and demand of SME credit. With Kim's help, BAS have gotten to understand exactly what different banks are looking for in terms of what they need in application packages, but also the different sectors and business models that interest the different banks. And also the banks got to understand the expertise that the BASPs bring and their value as partners in building profitable pipeline and profitable clients. Another partnership driving SME access to finance is National Treasury's Credit Guarantee Scheme, which is grounded in partnership between the government and the private sector, right? And the government plays its role in putting together some funding and developing some guidelines, but it's the financial institutions that use their own processes and policies for making lending decisions. So each of those partners understands its role, and together they're helping to unlock finance for SMEs. Thinking about the public sector, rather, we can go down to looking at what's happening at the counties. And Elizabeth, who's a great ambassador for Kakamega County, one of the things she talked about was the importance of, even within the county government, right, the coordination, putting together a one-stop shop so that investors aren't running from pillar to post when they want to invest in Kakamega, right? That even within the county government, that kind of collaboration is critical and is part of what helped make them an interesting destination, an attractive destination for region organics, right? In addition, we heard that the different counties were learning from each other right on the stage yesterday. We heard that Isiolo and Mombasa and Kakamega exchanging some ideas, and we hope to see that continue so they learn from each other and can be happy, friendly competitors and learning partners. Great. Kim's Women's Economic Empowerment Team has been absolutely phenomenal in thinking about partnership and driving partnership. The work that that team put together to co-create this investor readiness program for women-led SMEs was done in partnership with a venerable local organization, with Strathmore, right? Very often we see development projects that make kind of projectized assistance, right? We hire some coaches, we hire some consultants, we provide the training for a few cohorts, and that's it. But by embedding that by making a partnership that embedded the program in Strathmore, in addition to the 3 cohorts of women that benefited from this, Kim has left a legacy of this program that will serve women and other entrepreneurs well beyond the end of Kim. Today, our keynote speaker from the USAID Regional Mission, the Deputy Mission Director, reminded us of USAID's mission to support inclusive Kenyan-led development. And that USAID and all of USAID's activities are to be partners in fostering that locally led development. And that can only be done in partnerships. And so how we do our work is as important as the work we do. And Kim has therefore focused on approaches that forge partnerships connecting Kenyan organizations to each other, and decentering the project as a platform for organizations of Kenyans to come together to help each other. And actually, I thought I had all this figured out, but Ngatia's presentation on KEPFIC was a perfect example of that, right? So that KEPFIC was founded initially with, 5 like-minded pension funds, with the support for capacity building from Kenya Investment Mechanism. They grew to more than double, almost triple the number of pension schemes that joined KEPFIC because they could see an organization with capacity. And as we just announced, they have now a strong foundation to be a sustainable, locally led consortium. And that's the kind of development and kind of results that we're really looking for. The $630 million mobilized by Kim is absolutely impressive. But what's more impressive, right, the results behind the numbers, the way Kim has worked to create a financial ecosystem, a business ecosystem that can continue and build on and increase those results. I think over 5 years to mobilize in a certain amount of capital. It's another thing to help shift the way the ecosystem works so that those kind of results can be accelerated and increased over time. So all of us who've had even a small role in Kim are excited to see how Kenyan partnerships take this work forward to achieve even greater results. As I said, the $630 million, again, great number, but that number is just a start. We know that working together, you can do even more. So you may have heard the adage, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. So I'm very proud to have been, like I said, a small part of what the Kenya Investment Mechanism team has done together with county governments and the national government, with SMEs, with the real sector, the financial sector, and advisors to be part of building a foundation for a Kenyan-led future that brings prosperity to all Kenyan people. So thank you very much for letting me be a small part of this. We can now go together to lunch.
USAID's Kenya Investment Mechanism has been connecting business.
I guess only the MC can actually tell you to go to lunch.
We created a network.
But that actually marks the end of our closeout session today. I want to thank you all for being an incredible, incredible audience. I want to thank of course, the Kim team, our media team, who have made our event absolutely flawless. I think we need to give them another warm round of applause. And to each and everyone who made time to be here today, thank you all so much. Enjoy your lunch. Remember to pick a voucher on your way out. As an MC, I want to thank you as well for being an incredible audience once again. My name is Terry Ann Chebet, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of this conversation. Asante and God bless.